friends, welcome back to my kitchen for another week of dinners. Tonight I'm starting using these beef short ribs that I've had in the freezer for a few years now. They've been kept frozen so they're fine. It's more the longer meat is in the freezer, quality reduces a little bit. So these are fine for Ben and I for dinner tonight. So I'm going to get these in the slow cooker. I've made a little bit of a rub. I'll put the recipe down below, but in the rub I've got mustard powder, black pepper, salt, cumin, paprika, onion powder, garlic powder and brown sugar. So I've made the rub. I'm going to pop them in the slow cooker for about 8 hours on low. If you can hear noise too, my daughter is playing in a little play area in front of the kitchen here. I'm also going to attempt to make a big batch of my Thai red curry pumpkin soup that I like to make. Again, I'll link the recipe down below, but we'll see how we go. A plan's a plan. I would love to get both of these done. I'm definitely going to get the beef short ribs on. It's only a small packet of beef ribs for dinner tonight. And yeah, I'm going to prep a big batch of the pumpkin soup if I can. I've got lots of pumpkins from my garden, so it's going to be a good way to use them up. And I haven't made it in over 6 months, so I'm keen to make that. So let's get started. I'll turn the lights on, that will help. All right. I'm just going to use my small crock pot, which is a good size for these ribs, and it seems to be better on low. My larger crock pot tends to get a little bit high on the low setting. Cover it in a little bit of oil. The recipe calls for about double the amount of beef short ribs, but I've just done the rub as the recipe suggests, and I'll just use half of it and then keep the rest in the fridge for next month. So it's 2 and the little one in for dinner tonight. They're quite meaty though, which is nice. All right, so there's my ribs, and I'm going just to add half of this rub. The recipe that I've linked does have like a barbecue sauce recipe. I've used her barbecue sauce recipe before. It's delicious, but for the sake of time, we've got this meat juice from New Zealand barbecue sauce. So I'm just going to add a little bit of it on top. And I'm also going to add in just a little bit of water. I'm going to keep an eye on this. I'm not leaving it while I'm not at home today. I'm just going to put a little bit of water in the bottom, just so there's enough liquid in there when it gets started, like starting to heat up. But I'm not going to add the full 2 cups like recommended. So 1/4 cup I feel like is going to be plenty, maybe not even that. I'm just going to put in 1/8 cup of water. So just a little bit of water with my ribs, and I'll just put a little bit of that barbecue sauce on top. I'll add more as it's needed throughout the day. All right, so I've got my crock pot on low. I'm going to just leave it until, it's 11 o'clock now. I'm going to leave it until about 5:30. So what's that? A good 6.5 hours. The recipe calls for 8 hours on low, but I am only using half the amount of beef, so I think that will be fine. And then I'll put it in the oven for 30 minutes to caramelize. And I'll check on it throughout the day too and add a little bit more barbecue sauce if I feel like it's needed. All right, so I am going to cut up 2 brown onions. I've got my pumpkin from my garden, half a little one that I've already started to use. Obviously, oh, I'm not sure if this onion might have just caught this onion in time. And then a large one. I'm going to use it all. I'm going to double this recipe. It's a Thai coconut pumpkin soup. And I'm using my AM Thai red curry paste. I've got one that I've had open in the fridge and a new jar. Oh, this onion is getting my eyes. I do love how simple this recipe is, and I prefer to actually let the pumpkin simmer for a few hours instead of, I think, it only suggests 20 or 30 minutes until it softens. I'm planning on giving some of this to my sister-in-law. I'm not sure if she's technically newborn anymore, but has a very small baby. And then freezing some of this for myself for lunches. It's not Ben's favourite dinner, so I'll probably have this for lunches and dinner tomorrow night. Ben will have it for dinner tomorrow night with some roti, but he won't have it like for lunch. So, but I love it, so I'll definitely have some in the freezer for lunches. So just roughly dice it because, if you're going to follow the recipe like I am, I blitz it at the end in my food processor. Alright, so I've got my onion in there. I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of my crushed garlic. So I'm going to use the last of this first jar that I got a month ago. So 1 jar, 360 grams of Australian minced garlic lasts me 1 month. I bought 2 though, so let's go with our second container. I bought 2 because I was hopeful it was going to be really nice. I love this garlic, and it was the same price for shipping for 2 than it was for 1, so I went with 2. So this is what it looks like fresh. Beautiful Australian garlic. Thinking I kept the unopened pack of garlic in the pantry where it's cool and dry, but have a look, it smells a bit different. I'm still going to use it. Not sure if you can see here, that's the garlic I've been using the last month and kept in the fridge. That's the garlic out of that new container. It's got like an orangey tinge to it. It has a little bit of like a acidic smell. I'm still going to use it. Let's see how it goes. I hope, look, I'm hoping it's not going to stuff up this dish. I might email them about it. Add a bit of olive oil, good amount of olive oil. And then we'll start this sauteing while I cut up my pumpkin. While I chop up this pumpkin and de-seed it, I want to talk to you a little bit about my Patreon. If you've been subscribed to this channel for a while now, you'd know that I've got a Patreon account where I send out to you, if you're a paid member, either an emailed printable copy or delivered a hard copy to your door every month of my monthly meal planner. This is what it looks like. So this is my April, and Jimmy started last month, or this month, with my pumpkins in the background. Jimmy starts every month. The month of May, he's enjoying some kale, frozen kale sticks. Anyway, this is what the monthly meal planner looks like. If you order the hard copy, it comes on a really nice thick sheet of paper, and then you also get monthly grocery list. So I've started just to jot down a few things for the month of May, but I haven't really put that much thought into it. So if you're interested in getting your hands on a monthly meal planner every month, have a look at my Patreon link down below. I also post every month my plan for dinners, including links to recipes. So if you want some inspiration or if you want to know what I'm cooking, it's in my Patreon. For the month of May, I'm going to open up that post of what I'm cooking for dinners throughout the month, or what I plan to. I'm going to open that up for any of my free members. So if you have been thinking about it, but you haven't signed up as a free member or a paying member, check out the link down below and you'll be able to see either way what I'm going to be cooking for the month of May. And of course, I show you on here too, snippets of weeks at a time throughout the month, but I list it all down for you in my Patreon. So if you would like to have a look at this, or if you would like to support my channel, Patreon is an amazing way to do that. That's all for Patreon. I'm going to continue chopping up these beautiful pumpkins from my garden. I'm not too worried about the size of the pumpkin chunks because I am going to let it simmer for a few hours, but if you wanted to cook this a bit quicker for dinner, just chop up your pumpkin really small so it just becomes tender quite quickly, and then you'll have dinner ready within the hour, easily within the hour.
Future Maddie here. I'm sitting nursing my daughter while she has a nap, like always, and completing my voiceover for this video. Thank you all so much for tuning in again for another week of Dinners in My Kitchen. If this is your first time here though, like I said at the start, my name is Maddie, and I'm an Aussie mum, and on this channel I show you everything I get up to in my kitchen as a mum on a budget. Now, for those of you who do follow me, you will know that this video is quite a few days late, 3 or 4 days I think off memory late. I've had this video filmed now for a little while, and unfortunately my daughter has been struck by another sickness that she brought home from daycare, and then when she was starting to feel better, I got sick. And it's the type of sickness where I had to take a few days off work and just rest. So that's been our life, the life of a busy family juggling quite a few things. And look, I wouldn't have it any other way, but that's all part of this channel and who I am, a busy person. I love filming. Filming usually happens no matter what. It's just more the editing that takes a little bit of time. My hopes and dreams one day is to have someone help me with editing, but that is, if at all, going to happen a long way down the track. But anywho, on this channel I aim to post a video weekly, if not 2 a week.
Okay, I'm going to turn off the onion and garlic. I'm going to wash my second pumpkin and then get this chopped up as well.
You might be wondering why I am washing this pumpkin since I'm taking the skin off anyway, but I wanted to save the skin for a batch of vegetable stock, so I thought I'll just wash it off because there was quite a bit of dirt on the skin, and I didn't end up using the whole pumpkin. I just cut it in half and put the other half back in the fridge. I decided that it looked like there was plenty of pumpkin there for a double batch of this recipe. Here I am just adding in the rest of the ingredients for this pumpkin soup. I decided to leave the coconut milk out until, the last 30 minutes of simmering. Just felt like it didn't need to simmer all day. Well, not all day, but for the few hours that I had this pumpkin soup simmering for. So I have linked, as always, the recipe down in the description, but this is a Recipe Tin Eats recipe. I'm using 6 heaped tablespoons of my Thai red curry though, because I do like it to be a bit stronger in flavour. I didn't have the fish sauce. I believe it's 1 tablespoon, which would have been 2 tablespoons of fish sauce for this double batch. So I just left it out, which was totally fine. Also 5 cups of vegetable stock. So I just crumbled up the stock cubes and added in the water, and adding in the pumpkin back into the pot. I let this simmer for 3 hours. The last 20 minutes I added in my 2 400ml cans of coconut milk. Then I let it cool right off before blitzing it in my food processor. I put 2 servings in my glass Pyrex containers, and then I put the rest in Ziploc bags. For the freezer, I did 2 larger portions and 2 smaller portions. If you're wondering why I'm using plastic after switching out all my plastic containers for glass, it's because I don't have enough glass containers. I want to put in an order soon for some more, just so I've got plenty for, freezer meals that might not be eaten within the next few weeks. But for now, I'm continuing to use my Ziploc bags as just a convenient option. Moving on here, after I'd finished portioning out the pumpkin soup, I just assembled our dinner. These beef ribs were so surprisingly tender. They turned out so good. I was hesitant that they would be this tender because of the age of them, how long they'd been in the freezer, but more so because I didn't put a whole lot of liquid in the slow cooker. But they definitely didn't need it. They were so good. We'll definitely be keeping our eye out for any of these beef ribs at Woolies again. Now, there's no shame in this. There's no shame in this mum game at all. Yes, you are seeing ribs again for the second night in a row. This morning, I was thinking I need another quick slow cooker option. We had a busy day planned and I wasn't feeling like making, a long dinner or anything that was going to take a lot of effort later on this day. I just knew I wasn't going to have the time or energy. So we had pork ribs in the freezer and we decided to have pork ribs again. And this turned out delicious, and it tasted completely different to the dinner we had the night before. So although this is barbecue pork ribs, I've made these a few times on this channel. I'll link the recipe down below, but all I did was olive oil, salt, pepper, roughly diced up a brown onion, and I added some of my crushed garlic, and I let this cook during the day. When it came to the evening, my partner Ben took over doing the barbecue glaze on it before popping it in the oven just to get it nice and sticky. We decided to as well so that it was a little bit different. We had some bayo buns in the freezer. The last time we made bayo buns, I bought 2 packets, not knowing if 1 packet was going to be enough because we had a friend round, but 1 packet was definitely enough on that night. So we had a spare packet in the freezer. We brought them out. You'll see later in this video, Ben steamed them in just the little steaming thing that we have on top of our pots. And then I did a really quick pickled cucumber and pickled carrot. I'll link the recipe down below, but this was so delicious. So we had barbecue pork ribs on bayo buns with pickled carrot and pickled cucumber. Again, not a whole lot of veggie on this dinner. Don't worry, Lola had her veggies. I had some meals prepped in the freezer for her full of veggies. So our daughter got all the veggies that she needed, and we had 2 lazy nights of yummy dinners, and I am not at all ashamed of that. Here's my daughter helping me. She needed mum, so she was just watching as I popped these onions in the slow cooker, and also the garlic. I awkwardly managed to get the last bit of the garlic out of the other container that I had to use up. Yes, you were seeing correctly. I'm bringing the slow cooker out again. I love my slow cookers, and as the weather starts to cool off a little bit, my slow cookers are going to be coming out in full force. On this night, I'm making a slow cooker dump meal that I defrosted the day before. Problem with these dump meals, I forget to get them out and defrost them properly, but I managed to do it with this one. This is the buttered chicken. Now, disclaimer, this recipe that I use the Recipe Tin Eats buttered chicken recipe, which is not meant to be a freezer dump meal. I just wanted to see if it was going to work, and it didn't really work. No fault at all of the recipe. The multiple times that I've made it before, I've followed the recipe and I've let it simmer in my big pot. I think I simmer it for longer than the recipe suggests in my big pot, but not all day in the slow cooker. The cream had split. It's either the cream or the yogurt that I put in, probably both. Anyways, it split, and it just didn't have the richness of flavour that it does when you simmer it in a pot. So although it was tasty, it was buttered chicken, it was a little bit disappointing. I really should have known though that it wasn't going to work out. I had a few of my viewers in the comments of the video when I did this slow cooker prep say, hey, let me know how the buttered chicken goes, because that cream is probably going to split. I didn't think of that, but I know now not to do that. Anywho, it was still a really, easy dinner. This saved it though. We decided to make some naan. I had a friend over this day during the day and dinner, and because dinner was sorted, we had a bit of time up our sleeves, so we made some naan bread. I've made this naan bread so many times before. I'll link the recipe down below. It's a very simple recipe and hard to get wrong. You see, I've got Greek yogurt out on the table. I got it out just because from memory I thought that this recipe had Greek yogurt, but it doesn't. One thing to note though is when you are stuffing it like we were on this night, the recipe does go through, how to go about stuffing it, but make sure the first roll, which I'll explain to you when you see myself and my friend roll this dough out, make sure the first roll isn't too thin. Otherwise, when you then go to add in your stuffing, like we did the cheese and garlic, and you put it into a ball and then roll it again, you don't want the, dough between the stuffing and the pan to be too thin. So yeah, make sure you don't roll it out too thin that first time before rolling it out again. But anyways, this turned out really, really great. I'm just finishing off the dough here, remembering I forgot to add in the ghee. So I added in the ghee. It's a really forgiving recipe. I've made this so many times before. it always turns out just fine. But yeah, there's no kneading required. I just decided to get my hands in to make sure that the dough was well mixed, since I added the ghee later on. But I, mixed in the ghee here, left it in this bowl on the counter for 2 hours until it doubled in size. Then you'll see me divide this dough into 4 and then go about doing a quick bench rest and then finishing up rolling, stuffing and cooking the dough on the frying pan. What I also did, because the slow cooker, the butter chicken, was looking as though it was a little bit of oil sitting on the top, I just went ahead and scooped out as much of that oil as I could. I also took the chicken out of the slow cooker, pulled it apart with the 2 forks and then put it back in the slow cooker so there wasn't huge chunks of chicken thigh. For a quick veggie side, I just made some cauliflower rice. So I grated up what I could of the cauliflower, pan fried it with some oil, salt and pepper. So the next night we had, that's a little bit of granola that I made before making dinner, roast pork with veggies. For the veggies, all I'm doing is halving that half of pumpkin that I had, put a bit of oil on it, popped it in the air fryer on 160 degrees for 30 minutes. And then I'm cooking up here. This is all while the pork is in the oven. Ben prepped the pork and popped it in the oven. I'm making up a quick green bean salad with roasted pine nuts that I'm just roasting there, and some cranberries which go really well with the pork. Now, I believe years ago when I first met Ben, which is going on almost 10 years ago now, I made this recipe for the first time of this pork green bean salad, and I have no idea where I got the recipe from, and I've kind of just slowly adapted it to a simpler version over the years. So all I do is roast my pine nuts, pop my green beans in that I've tipped and tailed with a little bit of oil, salt and pepper. I cook them down until they're looking like they're very close to how I would like them to be, still a little bit crunchy, not overdone. And then I add in cranberries and I pop the pine nuts back in and cook it for another 10 to 20 seconds. And it's just a really yummy, simple side dish to have with pork. So on this night we had a bit of a treat. That is a huge brisket that you're seeing just here. Ben really wanted to smoke something, so he went and bought a brisket, and we had it with some sides that we already had, and also some sides that he went and bought. Definitely a treat, and I'm certainly not complaining. Here we are the following night having super simple leftover toasties for dinner. We had already some veggies cut up from sandwiches throughout the week, and we're just having some of that roast pork on a bun with veggies. Thank you all so much for joining me in my kitchen for another week of dinners. I hope I've been able to keep you company while you do whatever you do, whether that's working around the house, cooking yourself, or just resting. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving me a thumbs up. It means so much. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you soon for a monthly grocery haul.